Grace and peace, friends and family. This is Joy. Welcome back to another discussion. I hope that you are all keeping well and continuing to take care of yourselves. I got a little tongue twisted there. But I hope that you are nurturing your needs as you continue to journey beyond narcissistic abuse. Today I wanted to have the conversation with you about what makes you so dangerous when it comes to the narcissist. I want to start off by sharing one of my all-time favorite quotes with you, and it's by Victor Hugo, and it simply says, "All the forces of the world are not so powerful as an idea whose time has come." I'm going to repeat that. All the forces in the world are not so powerful as an idea whose time has come. Jeremiah says it like this, "For I know the thoughts that I think towards you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end." One thing about narcissistic abuse that I think is fundamental that you actually grasp is that it is an assault on your highest faculty, which is your mind. Your mind is so powerful. When we consider the quote by Victor Hugo, it says, "All the forces in the world are not so powerful as an idea." An idea forms in the mind. It's a seed. It's something that forms in your mind. All the forces in the world are not as powerful as an idea whose time has come. And for me, that really spoke about Jeremiah 29:11. "For I know the thoughts that I think towards you, says the Lord. Thoughts of peace and not evil, to give you an expected end." I'm paraphrasing. What makes you so dangerous to the narcissist? You know, the narcissist thought that they had you figured out. They have been studying their craft long before you ever came into their lives. And even if you were raised by narcissists, please believe that they were studying their craft. They were perfecting their craft long before you ever stepped foot into their lives. They have learned the art of manipulating people. They have learned the art of being abusive, mentally, emotionally, verbally, physically, in every way that a person can be abusive. The direction that they're inclined to be abusive, they have been doing that for the longest time possible. And it's important that you remember this. They studied this. And when you study something, and it's not to say like they sat down and read a book, but we know that there is a force that empowers them to do what they do. But it's become second nature to them. They do it as easily as they breathe. They don't even think about what they're doing. And it's important that you understand and you grasp hold of the fact that, yes, narcissists are fully aware that what they do is evil. They are fully aware that they are up to no good, and that what they do actually hurts the victims. And you know, the crazy thing is, they spend time also sometimes trying to figure out, how do I amp this up a notch? How do I make it worse? And they enjoy it. They enjoy other people's pain. So yes, they are fully aware of what they do. But what makes you so different, what makes you so unique, is that firstly, you're not them. And that in itself is a praise break. But what makes you so special and unique is that your mind is yours. Your mind is fully yours. I've said this throughout so many videos that it's important that you understand and you lay hold of the fact that your mind is so powerful. Seeds form in your mind. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. You know, so even when the quote that I started off with, it lets you know the power of an idea. Those are formed in the minds. It's your thought patterns. And that is what narcissists come to interrupt. They come to corrupt the way that you think. They come to compromise your thought process. Because if they can compromise your thought process, they have access to every other activity or function that you will operate from. If they are able to corrupt that thought process, that gives them access to compromise how you feel. And then that gives you, or that gives them, should I say, the ability to affect the way that you show up in life. You end up a compromised version of yourself when you have spent time with narcissists. You are not your true self. But in order for you to get to your true self, you have to get back to your mind. And even when your emotions are so deeply hurt, when they are so buried in pain and shame, in anger, in regret, in guilt, when you feel like, I just want to give up, I can't go forth anymore, this is too much, I can't, I just don't want to, it's difficult, I can't get up off this floor, I'm just, my life is over, it's just too much. And these are feelings that are real. I don't want to diminish your feelings. I don't want to diminish your experience, because that was mine at one point. That was my reality. But what I want you to know is that it's just an idea that you need. It's just a thought. And it starts with a word. A word is something that gives you the fuel and gives you the vision to illuminate what can be. And so I presented to you Jeremiah 29:11 for you to consider. I know the thoughts that I think for you. I have an idea of what I think for you, and it's not to give you any evil, but to give you hope and expected ends. It starts in your mind. What makes you so dangerous to a narcissist is when you make up your mind and you decide, not today, narc. When you make up in your mind and say that I am going to fight for myself at all costs. And it means you have to show up daily. And I'll be the very first to admit that sometimes you don't want to show up because it just feels like a lot. It feels like a lot. I remember not even that long ago, there were times where I felt like this is too much. I just can't. I shared a few months ago what my experience was like with my son. And even though, his feelings and what he was going through as a result of narcissistic abuse, they were his feelings, but everybody in the family was affected by what he was going through. But it all started with a narcissist. It all started with a narcissist triangulating a new child against an old child. And feelings were hurt. And just saying that I'm going to show up in life when life seems to be just too much. And you like, I can't, I'm tired. This keeps happening, or why do these things happen to me? But what are we going to do now that this has happened? Do we lay down on the floor of defeat and say, okay, narcissist, you win? I bet not. What we're going to do is speak to ourselves, because your mind is powerful. I want to remind you, do you remember in the Bible with the children of Israel when they were led out of Egypt, and then they started to have those questions because they were doubting what was ahead of them, because they didn't know the path. They didn't know the way. They didn't have all the answers. They couldn't see everything. But remember, Jeremiah 29:11 says, for I know the thoughts that I think towards you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. For He knows the way that you will take. He knows your path. He is the one who gives you the desires of your heart. So just as the children of Israel were deciding or desiring to go back to Egypt, because that's what they knew, because that's what was familiar, sometimes we feel like I miss the narc. Sometimes we feel like, oh, if only things could go back to the good old days. Yeah, but the good old days, you were being love bombed. The good old days, you were being deceived. The good old days, they were running smear campaigns behind your back. The good old days, they were not honoring you. The good old days, you had a veil over your eyes. The good old days were not good at all. There were days where your reputation was being tarnished and you didn't even know. There were days that you were laying down with the devil and you didn't even know. There were days when you were being manipulated, you were being abused, you were being misused, and you just didn't know. But now that you know, you've come into the knowledge of the truth. that nothing is as it was. And now you're in the perfect season for your life to turn around. And it may seem contrary, but like the children of Israel didn't even recognize that when they were complaining of wanting to go back to Egypt, they were right by the promised land. You too are right by your promise, but you have to continue to walk. You have to continue to walk at the pace of grace. You have to continue to take that journey through the valley of the shadow of death and fear no evil, because He is with you. Who is He? God is with you. God is with you. Hold on to Him. Trust Him. Let Him lead you. Walking at the pace of grace simply says that you are going to walk with God. I should say simply means that you are going to walk with God. You're not going to go ahead of Him, because when we go ahead of Him, that's how some of us end up in these situations. When you go ahead of Him, that's saying, okay, I got this and I don't need you right now. And then, life does what it does when we become so prideful and arrogant, right? And it also means that I'm not going to lag behind Him and drag my feet, but I'm going to walk with Him. I'm going to invite God into my experiences. God, walk with me, talk with me, teach me, because I don't know which path to take. Let me hear your voice, God. Direct my thoughts. Give me thoughts. Meditate on His word. Dwell on those things that are good. That means go to therapy sometimes. That means go to counseling. That means letting go. And letting go isn't always easy, but that's letting go of the thoughts of Egypt. It means letting go of the things that drain and pain you. And that's where your power is, super empath. You have the ability to speak life over yourself. You don't need anybody to come and lay hands on you. You don't need anybody but yourself. You are your greatest prophet. Speak life over your word. The Bible tells us that the power of life and death is in the tongue. Choose life. Start speaking to your mind. All the forces of the universe are not as powerful as an idea whose time has come. It's a good idea to get up now. It's a good idea to get up off the floor of defeat. It's a good idea to get up out of the seat of disappointment. It's a good idea to walk and step out of the boat and walk in faith. It's a good idea to honor yourself. It's a good idea to make up your mind to let go of a person that does not love you. It's a good idea to choose yourself. It is always a good idea to choose yourself. Even when you don't know what tomorrow holds, just know who holds tomorrow and put your trust in Him. As much as you are fighting for your mind, you're also walking at the pace of grace, and His grace is sufficient for you. It's more than enough. But what makes you so dangerous to the narcissist is when you make up in your mind and you say, not today. When you make up in your mind and say, I'm choosing me and not you anymore. I'm honoring me and I'm going forward in my journey, no matter how many tears I have to cry, no matter how many nights I have to stay up, but I'm choosing me. And that's something that forms in your mind. It's an idea. It's a seed. Allow that to be fed with those that support your journey, those that love you. Continue to speak life. Continue to read and grow in the things that nourish you. What you lay hold of, what you grasp, what you entertain and I don't necessarily mean like a party type of entertain, but what you allow in your eye gates and your ear gates during your healing journey is important. It has the ability to propel you into your prepared places, into your promised land, or it can delay you. Don't listen to the naysayers. Don't listen to what vexes your spirit. You go where you are comfortable, where you are fed, where you are embraced in love. Ask God to give you a discerning spirit so that you know. Because at the end of the day, this is something spiritual, and you need to be able to discern. But because we know that this is spiritual, you have the power. You have the power to tread upon serpents and scorpions and over all the power of the enemy. And nothing shall by any means hurt or harm you. That is God's word. That is His promise. Nothing shall by any means hurt or harm you. That lets you know right now that you are powerful. That lets you know right now that hell should get nervous when you come into the fullness of the knowledge and you walk into the consciousness that you are the head and not the tail, that you are above and not beneath. When you walk into the consciousness that says that I am fearfully and wonderfully created, that I am the apple of God's eye, that I am seated in heavenly places in Christ Jesus, that no weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue that rises up against you in judgment shall be condemned. When you walk into the consciousness that you have been called out of darkness into the marvelous light, when you understand and you know that you are loved by him, nothing else matters. You are most dangerous when you walk in the fullness of your identity. That is what the narcissist never wants you to know. The narcissist always wants to delay your identity, or you actually being fully aware of who you are. Because when you don't know who you are, there's a tendency to accept any and everything that does not even benefit you, that is not profitable, that is not productive. When you don't know who you are, your purpose doesn't matter. But listen, your purpose matters. That's the reason for your birth. That's why God couldn't rest. He said, I know my son. I need him to come forth into this earth to do this thing. I know my daughter. I need her to come into this earth to do this thing. And then he put clay together, breathed into your nostrils, and placed you in your mother's womb. And here you are, not to be tormented, but to be an image of, or a demonstration of his glory on earth. When you come into the knowledge of who you are one who will not be played with, because you will know that I'm made in the image and likeness of God. I am powerful. I am creative. I'm more than enough. I've always been enough. And that's what makes the narcissist so nervous. That's what the enemy fought to keep you from walking into. Own your truth. Own your story, but remember that it doesn't stop here. Keep writing, keep walking at the pace of grace. I hope that you are inspired. I hope that you're encouraged to continue to move forward and to continue to trust God. I wish you all the best as you continue to journey towards your most significant state. Be fearless, and God bless you.